Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, can you do roll call, please? Excuse me. Okay, first item on the agenda is new bills. May I have a motion to adopt? Motion to adopt. Thank you, Council President Martin. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carter. Madam Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
I have a question. I received a check for my reimbursement going to the League municipality. They didn't see my name on the bill, so I'm not sure why I got a check before.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Did you hear Councilman Scarpase's question?
Yes. So I checked and it was on the bill list already, the reimbursements.
Which, do you know which bill list it was on? Was it previous bill list?
It's a January bill list. I'll tell you the exact date in a second. Can you just go on to the next thing and I'll let you know the exact date when I find it.
Councilman Scarpese, are you willing to have a question answered?
I found it. I'm sorry, I found it. I have it. So it is the January 18th, 2022 bill list. And the reimbursements in question, Ms. Scarpese, yours is on here for $421.75 for 4 things. And Mr. Rivera is on here as well. So that bill list was already approved by council.
Oh, it's Councilman Carter.
It's fast.
We're like, we've been hacked.
I was trying to find this video.
Okay,
Okay, I found it. Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, would you do roll call vote? Madam Clerk?
Carter,
Yes.
Council President Martin,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mitzi. Yes. Councilman Grabo,
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpese. Yes. Councilwoman Worrell. Yes. All affirmative.
Thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda is introduction of resolutions for consideration by consent. First resolution, 2022-2-32. This is a resolution appointing commissioner to the Penns Grove Sewage Authority, Michael Worrell. May I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Councilman Carter. May I have a second? Second. Thank you, Councilman. I'm sorry, Councilman. Councilwoman Worrell. Okay. Okay, any discussion?
Yes, I do. I know the last meeting I had asked if this would be tabled. So in the process, I had did some research. And I just want to go over a little bit, if you don't mind, just talking about some of the things that the sewage department had did from last year.
Before you, yes. If everyone, if anybody else wants to have a discussion, with the person, we're limited to 4 minutes, so we can put it up. So go ahead.
All those from the, if you don't mind, Mayor, those from the sewage department, can you stand? If you don't mind. So I just want to read what you guys last year under the direction Ms. Mary Kay. Reduced risks such as you drove asset management, plan development, and completion. You guys identified and received quotes for Paychex Company, a payroll payment company. Retaining this company will help mitigate and risk of errors for employees, payment, and government tax calculations. Determine part-time service for CFO required to ensure correct segregation of duties per past audit findings. Lower costs. Work with Keystone Holdings to develop projects for PGSA, to use New Jersey remote metering incentives to offset up to 90% of PGSA electrical costs. Improvement. Statistically analyze in-person customer payment trends and recommended with part-time office support is most needed based on these trends. Also, an office payment requirement, a person to stop their work and wait on customer created inefficiencies. Fulfill state requirements. This is what you guys did last year under the leadership of Mary Kay. You led and developed 2021-22 budget, examining each line item. A, approve a temporary budget until 2019 to 2020 audit is received by the state. E, completed work left undone by previous administration. 2019 to 2020 audit never started, completed, or submitted. Made progress. Guys, made progress to provide completed financial statements to the auditor. So the objectives for 2022 under the leadership of Mary Kay was to identify and apply specific grants, PGA per assessment management plan prioritization. 2, you retain, this was planned for this year, 2022, to retain Paychex Company as payroll provider. 3, acquire property for the Borough of Pennsboro and apply for net metering program. 4, address Congress Point request to provide 1,000 paid gallons per day processing by understanding full cost and developing price to CP for both processing costs. 5, retain part-time CFO services. 6, develop 2022 to 2023, complete 2019-2020 audit, and finally complete 2020-21 audit. These are the things that under the leadership of Ms. Mary Kay, you guys have done. And so at this, I just don't see a need for a replacement. I think just based on that, you guys deserve a round of applause. I think that, we all have the same thing in mind, is to work as a team. And I believe you guys can do that. That's all I have here.
I did some research too.
Oops.
I'm gonna be.
Oh, but somebody stop this first.
I did some research too, and I researched the statutes. Statutes say that this is not a mayoral appointment, it's a council appointment. And I believe that I forwarded that information to Ms. Worrell, and everybody needs to read it. It's, most appointments are by the mayor as approved by council. This particular one is different. It is supposed to come from council. And voting on that council. I've read both resumes, and although Mr. Worrell has a very nice profession, his skill set is not the same as Ms. James. The other thing that I would like to say is I think we can make a lot of progress, and that one of the main things that has to happen is we've had increases in our sewage bill. And Ms. James has been a financial analyst, working for DuPont, working for Dyson Foods, the state companies, has the skills, and after she's retired, she has the time. Mr. Worrell's still working in the prime of his life. Full-time job. That's really, I'm going to put my support not against Mr. Worrell, because I think that he has a lot to offer, but not as much as a prime opponent. I also want to agree the comments that this Martin and I cannot do.
Making that further comment. Sorry. Making no further.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm just adding, however, just so it's clear.
Can you?
Yeah, sure. Let me just add though, just so that it's clear, this resolution is Councilwoman Martin. It's good. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman Scarpelli.
She's still
Yeah, yeah.
very-
Yeah, I heard you say something about Councilwoman.
No, what I said was the movement of this, Council Scarpese was correct in saying that this is a council appointment. The movement was Councilwoman President Martin for this resolution.
I have one more comment. I'm going to reiterate my complaint under my agenda tonight. It was due a week ago Monday, so it's 8 days. old. Final agenda is sitting on my desk as I walked in the room.
Yes, this is an amended agenda. It was just to add the cannabis company for that resolution. So that's why you received an amended agenda.
Well, the other ones were late too. The original and the one before that.
Yes, you're aware of that. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else before we move forward? Okay. All right, ma'am, a motion to adopt resolution 2022.
It's already been.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you do roll call? Thank you.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Okay. Councilman Carter?
He's asking a question.
No one has the opportunity to speak on a resolution. Public portion, you'll have the opportunity to speak. And everyone will have the opportunity to speak at that time. The only time the public speaks after either a resolution or an ordinance is on second reading ordinances.
My apologies, Mr. Tarver. I thought it was, some of the members was here. I thought it could be maybe helpful in this, but I apologize. Public portion is too late, actually. That's a fact.
All right, Councilman Carter,
Yes.
Council President Martin,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mincy,
No.
Councilman Rambo,
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpese,
No.
and Councilwoman Worley.
No.
Council President, because there is a 3-3 deadline, the mayor will have the opportunity with regard to this. Madam Clerk, call the mayor.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes.
4 yeas, 3 nays, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Next resolution is 2022-233, and that's the resolution authorizing auction of borough properties. May I have a motion to adopt? Motion to adopt.
Second?
Thank you. So that's Council President Martin said, motion to adopt. Councilwoman Worley, second. Okay. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mincy.
We're authorizing an auction. Can you tell me what properties?
Didn't everyone?
We did receive the list, but I was told that some of these were supposed to come off the list.
Yeah, so
And they were.
yeah, there were some.
Well, yeah, let me see if I can answer that since I've been working with the auction. What happens in every official auction, well-run auction, is that you will get immediate lists, and then from time to time, that list will change. Those lists are not static; they are flexible. Meaning that from time to time, as different things are identified, then those things can come off of a list or even be added to a list before the final auction occurs.
And who's gonna do that?
That's done professionally by Max Span.
So are they going to remove all the undersized lots?
There is a process with regard to the undersized lots that they've developed, whereas only contiguous individuals will have the opportunity to bid on undersized lots. They have been identified through their process to make sure that those are the individuals who get the opportunity.
I checked it yesterday, they had 78 properties on there, which I think is basically our whole inventory. And there also wasn't anything in there, any deed restrictions that talked about having homeowners in the properties that were actually homeowners. Which I think that at least 3 council members, I believe, wanted that added.
One look at it.
Deed restrictions on that properties needed to be occupied by homeowners and not an investment property. And that was communicated to the BA in a meeting that we had with Buildings and Grounds, but I don't think that was the Buildings and Grounds Committee that actually put that forward.
I don't know that that was ever added.
No,
That's
it
something
wasn't.
that wasn't discussed with me. That type of restriction, though, it bears some consideration because you may cut down significantly on a pool of individuals who can participate in the auction, which you would be limiting
Yes,
the
it would.
auction to is only people who were in a position of immediately homeowners as opposed to other concerns, even a Habitat for Humanity or any other person who may want to build for other people to move forward. The problem with that, just as I understand it, I'm only speaking because I dealt with Matt Span and Mr. Brown is ill, and I know he's not feeling like talking. The problem with that is that it significantly cuts down on the number of people who are able to do that.
We had that discussion about it.
Yeah,
With that, but I think one of the goals that we had when we came up here is to increase the amount of home ownership in the borough. And this is a direct slap in the face to that.
Sean said he
Director.
can speak on this. He said he sent that information. You can unmute yourself, Sean, if you can hear me.
any other items?
Yeah, he should be able to.
Madam Mayor, are you recognizing? Mr.
Yes,
Brown?
Mr. Brown, you may speak. I'm recognizing.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to start by saying Ms. Scarpese is correct and that this issue was discussed at the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting. I think it was Ms. Scarpese, Ms. Worrell, and Ms. Carol Mincy, who was on the phone. And Ms. Mincy brought up this issue about the deed restriction and home ownership. So there certainly wasn't a vote on it. And as you said, it wasn't discussed in the committee report. But what I did was I had an in-depth conversation with Max Span about this. And I did some research because I completely agree, and I know the mayor does too, that home ownership is a priority. And what we learned in that, and I emailed this to everyone as well a few days after the meeting. I'll send it again just to reiterate. But what we learned in that process is that it's unrealistic to have a direct path from an auction to home ownership because most people who are going to be first-time home buyers buying a house are not able to get a mortgage or mortgage insurance for a house that's not move-in ready. And most of the structures that we have on the auction list need an investment of electrical, plumbing, and maybe a few other things to get it code ready. So instead, there's an indirect path to home ownership. So the people that are likely to purchase homes on this auction, they may rent them. They may sell them on the market. There are nonprofit organizations that want to invest and they can use grant money to lower the cost. But there's not a direct there's not a direct path. So what could happen is you could have a person spend their life savings of $30,000 buying a house on auction, a home they've never stood in before, and then they get in there and realize, oh man, I need 15,000 more just to do this or that. And it's not a good situation for people who are unfamiliar to how the housing market works. So in understanding that there's not a direct path, the administration can introduce people to first-time home buyer programs, of which there are more of right now. Do building credit seminars and things like that to get people in the community ready to purchase homes, or do things like we're doing either tonight or the next meeting and support organizations like Habitat for Humanity, who can build homes and get homeowners in them as well.
I think we also discussed the Community Reinvestment Act.
Yes, and so we looked into that, and that's just the CRA just doesn't fit in this scenario. The CRA is more likely to be able to work with banks for those first-time home buyer programs or funding programs where
That's the program that Pratt used to get homeowners in.
Well, I would just reference you to the email that I sent about CRA, and then maybe we could talk about it offline.
And I'd like to add something to that too. One of the things that I noticed about the taxpayers here in Penns Grove is that, from my recollection, we have, I think it was like 97 borough-owned properties. Well, last year, the taxpayers they were responsible for keeping that grass cut, and we ran out of money. And so what we had was issues that you had people volunteering and jumping in and trying to cut grass. You had Councilman Randall out there, other council members of the community, all banding together to keep that grass cut. And that's a tax burden on the taxpayers. And we're gonna have the same issue. It's gonna rain a lot and that grass is gonna keep growing. And once we cut grass in one area and we go to another area, that grass has to be cut again. So that's one of the things that I took into consideration when we decided to have this auction and to auction off so many properties. Another thing I want to note is that Penns Grove has one of the highest tax rates in Salem County. And the residents are carrying the burden of this dead weight. And as a part of receiving transitional aid from the state mandated and made that a part of our recovery plan, that we have to sell these properties. Boroughs and towns are not supposed to be in the real estate business. The whole point is to get these properties sold to people who will, fix them up and get it back on the tax roll to lower our property taxes. So that's a huge concern for me. And that's why I wanted to move forward with this auction. I know some of the council members wanted to kind of, reduce and kind of do a little bit at a time. And I understand, what they're thinking. But me personally, after reading our recovery plan several times, I felt that this was a good thing to do, is to go ahead and try to auction off as many properties, as long as they're not properties that are a part of our master plan, that we want to develop. Those properties we removed. But as far as the rest of the properties, we need to sell them. We need to get them into the hands of people who are going to rehab them, sell them, or rent them, or whatever they're going to do, and get it back on the tax roll. So that's what I want to say about that.
Can I finish what I was saying?
Yes, you may.
My statement is a borough agreement for fixing the houses up. We have said that when we sold them, supposedly to homeowners, but it's not going to work now, that we would give them a year to fix them up. And if not, they would come back to the borough. Do we still have that? Because I haven't seen it anywhere where we put that in. So we're going to sell houses and we're going to have the same mess that we've been having for years. They're going to buy them, use them for tax write-offs. And you're going to have the same problem if we don't have something put in. They buy these, even if it's the lots. They're going to buy the lots. They need to know that they need to keep up with them, clean them off, whatever they need to do. Because there is a lot. It's owned by somebody on the corner of Pittman and Landing. He's got piles of dirt that he's had sitting there about half the year. And it's water back there. So if we sell them lots or houses, where is it written that they have to do something with it within the time limit?
We're not prevented from doing reverter clauses, and that's one thing that we
Say that
discussed.
again?
I'm sorry. We're not prevented from doing reverter clauses. Reverter clauses basically say that if you don't perform a certain task by a certain time, then that property can revert back to the borough. As you know, we're in litigation over one of those reverter clauses now, dealing with a larger portion of property. So we're not prevented from doing that. Nothing stops us from being able to have that as part of our agreements, and that's something that we've already contemplated.
But are we gonna tell them that before the sale?
Yeah, they'll know.
Okay,
They will know.
I just wanna make sure that's in there.
It's in the contract.
Which contract?
There's a contract for sale that we provide to each bidder who is successful.
Oh,
And they
after,
have to,
it wasn't on the Max Fan's website.
I don't know whether it's on his website. I haven't seen his
It was
website.
40-something pages, I don't think I've seen it,
Yeah,
I don't think.
I haven't seen his website, but that's gonna be a condition.
Okay.
Any more questions, anyone?
When will we get the list?
I imagine we can get an updated list as early as tomorrow, but you'll probably be receiving several lists if I'm not incorrect, Mr. Brown. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes. So the list is fluid. I think someone used that word earlier. So if the number that you see on the website right now is 76, I think it's likely by March 1st that that number is reduced to 73. Information sometimes flows slowly, and then once it was a trickle and then a waterfall, because once the list was made public, we were able to learn some new things about a few of the properties that was helpful in determining whether it should stay on or off the list.
Let me just add one other thing, if I can, Mayor. May I just add one other thing? Because I want to make it clear, I know people have some concerns regarding these auctions. And as the procedure goes, even if a bid goes through at the time of the auction, we do have the option, should there be any issue with regard to that particular bid or that property, of not accepting that particular bid on the property. So there are a number of safeguards that are built in to allow us to make sure that we're able to adequately protect everyone's interest in these properties.
So I'm sorry, excuse me. I just wanted to note there are certain properties in particular that we're in the process of doing a title search on, which wasn't done in the previous administration when those properties were acquired through foreclosure. So we're working with the firm now to do a title search, and that process is what will give us some of the intelligence that's helpful in these decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
How are we using the right of first refusal? Because if you just put them up for auction, the people that have the right of first refusal may not even see the auction.
Only the individuals who.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Excuse me. There's good news there. Between Max Mann and I talked about that in particular. You're absolutely right. They are specifically targeting the neighbors of those, it's mostly lots, and making sure they have a door hanger or something in their door, specifically letting them know. And we have time. We do have time in the next 2 weeks to do that, to make sure that every single neighbor of those non-conforming lots of which you speak, we alert them that the auction is happening.
So we're giving the neighbors 2 weeks to come up with enough money to buy the lot next to them.
We can't control anyone's funding. I mean, we can't tailor the auction time to when someone will be able to obtain a loan or.
Well, actually, I have
Mr. Brown,
five.
Mr. Brown, hold on a second.
Let me just finish. Because I have experience, having done this in many municipalities with these auctions. There are always going to be these situations that are going to confront individual homeowners. It's never
If you guys can hear me in the courtroom, it's muted.
Okay.
The auctioneer, I mean, I guess maybe I can answer it, and Mr. Brown can chime in. Can you hear me? The question was, what about these properties that are adjoining to other homeowners that are specifically for sale? As I understand what you were saying, Mr. Brown, is, and I believe there are two safeguards here. Number one is there was an effort to identify the properties with the individual property owners. But as I understand it, Mr. Brown, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, what we're trying to put in place and what we believe will be in place with Mr. Span is that we are identifying those particular properties where there are adjoining residences, and those people will be set aside as qualified bidders. Am I correct with that?
Yes, you know what, and now that I'm thinking about it, this is a suggestion. If you look at it, because if you, and I'm talking to the council members and the mayor, if you look at a paper version, I'm not sure if you could tell as easily, but on the website, when the PDF, those non-conforming lots are marked. So they're tagged. So you can easily identify them as being a little bit different than the other properties on the list.
My question is, you got it, Sarah. My question is, if I have a property next to me that is, I want to buy, do I gotta go on the website and pay $2,000 to get into the bidding process to buy this property for $1,000?
No, that type of property would be treated differently. It would have a lower threshold for entrance.
So I still would have to go on the website and put it
So
in the
here,
bid.
so yes, because this is why. Matter of fact, Mr. Tarver, I'm going to throw this at you, but could you just explain the open and fair process and what that and how that legal concept matters here, please?
Well, there's two. I don't want to. I'm not going to get into legally advising anyone here at the time of the council meeting, because that's not proper. And I'm not legally advising residents, and I'm not giving legal advice as to how individuals should proceed with purchasing property or engaging in this auction, because that would be improper. What I can say is that there is a procedure with regard to individual properties and individuals who are in adjoining lots. And it's my understanding that those individuals, those bids for those individuals will be set aside. Now, what I can do is I will confirm that with you, Councilwoman Mincy, for you this evening, and have an answer for you this evening. Probably a little bit later, but I'll have an answer for you this evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Madam Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
Councilman Carter,
Yes.
Council President Martin,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mincy,
Yes.
Councilman Rambo,
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpese,
Yes.
Councilwoman Worley.
Yes.
Her motion passes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to second reading, public hearing and adoption of ordinances. We have ordinance 2022-1, salary ordinance 2022 for non-contractual employees. May I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Councilwoman Worley. You have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Council President Martin. Madam Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
No, this is the second reading.
Oh, this is the second reading. Oh, that's right. Okay. Anyone from the public would like to comment on this particular resolution? This is the resolution, ordinance, salary ordinance for non-contractual employees.
Madam Mayor, we can't see it, so what is it?
On the second page.
I can do it.
I see the resolution, but I don't know what the, I mean, I don't know what it is.
They don't have this.
How about,
I mean, you could just give us a short version.
Yeah, I can
I'm not looking for it.
sure, yes.
This is a salary ordinance for the Borough of Pennsgrove. Every municipality has to have a salary ordinance. And the ordinance is simply the guide which sets forth the salary ranges for every position within the municipality. It doesn't mandate that you pay anyone at any time or anything like that, but it sets forth the range and you have to be within that range in order to move forward. We're required to have one of these by, not just by statute, but by our recovery plan as well.
Thank you, that's all.
You're welcome. Any more questions from the public? Okay. Madam Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
Councilman Carter,
Yes.
Council President Morton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mincy,
Yes.
Councilman Rambo,
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpese,
Yes.
Councilwoman Worley.
Yes.
All affirm, motion passes.
Okay. Okay. We've got additional resolutions. So we're going back to introduction of resolutions for consideration by consent. This is resolution 2022-2-37. This is a resolution awarding for the multiple property demolition bid number 2021-01. May I have a motion to adopt, please?
I have a motion to table. Mr. Smith is going out for new RFQs on this.
Sean Smith, the engineer. You can read your magic.
He's on, I seen him.
Is he
come
on?
Yeah, he's on.
Mr. Smith?
He's on.
Madam Mayor, good evening, council members and the residents of Pennsgrove. Can you repeat the question? I'm hearing you and Mr. Tarver well at Mr. Brown, but everyone else in council is extremely muffled. Could you repeat the question again for me?
Councilwoman Scarpese.
Mr. Smith, this is for the demolition of properties. Didn't we agree to go out for new RFQs on this?
Councilwoman, I don't know if we agreed, but I myself was the one that drafted this resolution recommending Rico Construction Corporation out of Belmar, New Jersey. After taking a look at our addendum, the initial confusion was the actual property list themselves. We did send out addendum number 1 prior to the submission of the the bids, and all appeared in order. We're actually making a recommendation based on our experience with this contractor, Rico Construction Corporation, and all the supporting documents that were submitted in his package, that we make the recommendation to award the project to Rico Construction Corporation.
If I remember correctly, we only had one bidder and the cost was more than we thought necessary for the demolition of these properties.
Well, initially, when I took at our initial engineering estimates for each of the properties, they did come in slightly higher than projects, will be done in Pennsgrove. I mean, we were utilizing our numbers based on our experience in other municipalities. Pennsgrove's properties are a little larger than your typical urban areas. So the additional $2,000–3,000 that we estimated per unit was exceeded, but it was their numbers, adjusted to your community did make sense. So we made the recommendation to demolish a total of 9 properties.
I thought that the difference was more like 5,000. It was 17,000 on average versus 23,000, which the bid came in per property.
Unfortunately, if someone else can repeat the question, I did not hear half the things you said.
I don't think it's working, is what the problem is.
Hmm?
Oh, it's just something else. Okay, the numbers that I remember was the average cost for a property was 17,000 per your experience in other areas, and these were coming in at $5,000 more at 23 per property.
Correct, ma'am. Yes, our original engineering estimate was between $17,000 and $17,500.
Mr. Smith, I had spoken to you before. I thought that had something to do with the presence of asbestos in the building and the buildings, and the fact that would raise the higher cost, if I'm not incorrect.
Well, that is correct in for some of the properties, not necessarily all of the properties, sir, but yes.
Mrs. Smith, you have the updated list?
I would be happy to read them out. Erie Avenue, block 119, lot 2, the 60th block of Walnut, block 72, lots 6 and 8, Landing Avenue, blocks 18 and lot 5, Mitchell Avenue 68, lot 7, 139 Landing Avenue, block 16, lot 1, 123 Tyrone Avenue, block 70, lot 3. And then I have property addresses as 38 Cumberland Avenue, 39 Cumberland Avenue, and 41 Cumberland Avenue.
And we've confirmed that we own all those properties.
Ma'am, that is my understanding, yes.
I have a question.
1 second, Councilwoman. You're finished? Okay, go ahead.
The other year when we took properties down, the construction people came in and they deemed them, what's the word? Unhappy.
Emergency.
They gave us a paper that said that we could take them down. Did we need to do this with these properties too?
Ma'am, if I can answer that question, I was called out with my structural engineer to assess these properties. And we've submitted documentation to the mayor in reference to these are uninhabitable properties.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So you.
That's right. There was a
Motion to
I had a
table.
motion to table.
Okay. Councilwoman Scarpese made a motion to table.
So the first thing that has to be handled is the motion to table. It's actually not supposed to be available, but that's okay, we did. But so the clerk will be calling roll on the motion to table, and that is determine whether or not this would be tabled until some other date.
What are we actually going to table?
This particular motion, which would be tabling the awarding of the bid for
No, I'm saying what about it are we going to, I understand what they want to table, but when we do table it, what process are we taking?
Table it until the next meeting. See if we can do it for RFQ.
Second.
We'll do RFQ. See if we can get other bidders.
So Rico, was there only better?
And there are other companies.
Nobody else applied? Too big?
No.
What's going to change?
I think we missed this.
We didn't solicit them before?
They just advertised.
Where will we solicit? Where will they be solicited at?
So we're trying to see if we're gonna table.
Hold on. Yeah, everyone can't speak at the same
No,
time.
sorry, I was trying to word down.
She's gotta-
Sorry. Oh, Councilwoman Nancy.
She answered, she just said, she said, we'll contact them directly. I just don't want to prolong it. It's gonna be for no
We
reason.
can't contact.
No. No.
Okay, so you, oh. I didn't have nothing, she was just relaying the message because I couldn't hear you. Oh, okay. Councilman Carter was asking what would we be tabling for what purpose? So, Councilman Scarpelli explained to them why she wanted to table. I heard him, I just couldn't hear her. Okay.
Sean said
Yeah.
Sean said 4 companies looked at the properties, but only one submitted on time.
Okay. Okay. All right, so Madam Clerk, you have to take roll call vote to see if we're gonna table it.
Well, we first, it's a motion, so we first need a second.
Okay, so we have Councilwoman Scarpelli made a motion to table. Is there a second?
Motion fails for lack of second.
Okay, so we'll do regular. Okay, so can we have a motion to adopt resolution 2022-2-37?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Councilman Carter. May I have a second? Thank you, Council President Martin. Madam Clerk, can you do roll call vote, please?
Councilman Carter,
Yes.
Council President Martin,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mincy,
Yes, although I think 22,000 is a bit much, but yes.
Councilman Rambo,
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpelli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Worley. Yes. All affirm motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. Next resolution is 2022-2-38. That is a resolution of support for the application of ELIXICOR LLC. That is one of the cannabis companies that submitted an application to the Borough of Pennsboro.
You may want to group these out. Discussion.
Okay. Okay, so do I read them off? Because you need to say what I'm doing.
We can just have a motion to 38, 40, 41, 42, 43, 45, 46, and 47 to bring on adopt. And we have discussion. I'm sorry, 48, that's fine.
Okay. Okay. So may I have a motion to group these, motion to group all of these resolutions for cannabis companies.
You'll need to read 37.
That is resolution 37, resolution 38. I'm sorry, resolution 38, ELIXICOR, resolution 39, Magic Garden, resolution 40, Grow Culture, resolution 41, DANK DELUXX, resolution 42, The Made Clean, resolution 43, One Faith Wellness, resolution 44, Miles of Green, resolution 45, MJ Marley's, resolution 46, Fortune Farms, and resolution 48, Tri-Leaf LLC.
Motion to adopt, to table together.
To group together.
Group together.
No.
Yeah, I apologize.
Thank you, Councilman Carter. Second by Councilwoman Scarpelli. Now discussion. We're going to discussion.
I have this is going to sound weird. Mr. Donnie Redford is on there. Can I please ask him what company he's involved in? Mr. Donald Redford.
Donald Redfield. Mr. Redfield?
Yes. Hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Mr. Redfield, what company are you involved in this?
I'm not involved with any companies. I'm just representing a gentleman who's purchasing some properties in town. That would be Mr. Redlick, who is online there.
Is he one of those
Sam.
Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Redfield.
Thank you.
Sam Redlick.
I'm new, Sam.
I just want to know if he's one of these companies.
No, he's not.
He's not?
He said he's not.
Oh,
Realtor.
oh, he's just a realtor. Okay. The reason I said that, because I didn't want to be accused of voting for somebody who I used to work with. I used to work with Mr. Redfield, and I was already accused of doing things like that before, and I just want to make it plain that I wasn't accused of voting for people that I used to work with. Sorry for the delay.
Thank you. I had a question.
Yes.
We're allowed to limit the number of entities that we have dealing with manufacturing cultivation, each category. We didn't have anything like that in our ordinances at this time. We didn't have anything in our ordinance at this time to require them to pay us additional fees to be able to come into Pensgrove.
Unfortunately, we can't require that by law.
I think you said that in the pamphlet that we just got.
We cannot seek any additional,
Licensing
Benefit.
fees.
oh, you're saying licensing fees. Yes,
We
do
don't have
licensing
anything
fees.
like that in our ordinances at this time. And I don't know if we have to do that before or after we do this.
Can I say?
Yes, Mayor.
This, just so you understand what this process actually is.
Go ahead, you gonna say it for me?
Individuals who are interested in any way participating in the cannabis industry in any municipality. We're talking about Pensgrove here. First have to obtain what is called a resolution of support from the municipality. That is simply a resolution that we have reviewed and looked at their project, and we are okay with them applying to the state to move forward. We're not bound to those companies, and they are not bound to us. We don't require anything from them. They don't require anything from us. There's nothing that we are bound to by giving them this resolution. The only thing it does is it allows them to go to the next process, which is to go to the state and to seek full licensure for either the cultivation, the manufacturing, the retail and distribution, and things of that nature, which is a very, very stringent and onerous process. So the only thing that you are voting on here is the resolution of support. You may never hear from these individuals again. Or you may won't hear from some of them who decide that they want to be here, you decide that you want them to be here. But this just allows them to take the first sequential step to move forward. So there's nothing, in these types of things, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We have time to move forward our ordinance to determine how we want to limit people who are actually going to be involved in the cannabis industry. And just so you know, you as a municipality, you have the right to set the time, place, manner for all the operation of these companies. When they close, when they open, how they operate, where they operate, what the security is beyond what the state requires. The state requirements are a floor, but you are a ceiling. You can require more than what the state requires, but the state actually has some pretty onerous requirements for those of you who have been to some of these facilities. So there's nothing that requires us to wait to do the other matters with the ordinances. That's something that's in the works for us as we speak.
Okay, so we're gonna make that a priority to get those ordinances in place to require a licensing fee and to limit the amount of each category that we are gonna allow in Pensgrove.
Absolutely, that's something that has to be done.
I have a question.
Yes.
So the license fee, is that an annual fee or is that a one-time fee?
I believe that there is at least what's called the application fee with the state, which is a significant one-time fee. And then I believe there is regular licensure in addition to that. But for us, we're entitled to, as we said within the ordinance, the 2% on tax on the industry.
It's not really clear, but I'm gonna imagine it works like a liquor license.
Right, that's why I was kind of wondering, because.
A lot of these rules aren't clear.
And a lot of these rules are evolved.
They're in flux.
Yeah.
So,
I wanted to say one other thing. I was not happy that one of these, and I can't remember which one, would not reveal what properties that they were interested in. They're not being transparent up front.
From my understanding, they're interested in anywhere we're allowing them to be. That's why they didn't put it on that.
Well, they specifically said that they weren't going to tell us one address, and I'm like, why?
Consider
you don't know which one it was?
I can't remember which one it was, and I don't have my.
It doesn't
Okay.
say the name of the company, but it does say, I have been asked by the owner not to include the address for purposes of this application.
It's on that chart, but I didn't bring it with me.
This is the
Okay, so basic, so even if we provide a letter of support, we're that, it's not,
We're not.
we're
Right, I
not
understand.
committing ourselves,
I
right?
understand.
This is a process that has to happen in order for them to even go to the
The
state
next step.
for their application, they have to have letter of support.
So if we don't like the person you're talking about, we can give them this
And then take it
permission
back.
slip and then say, no, you don't want to give us that detail, go ahead about your business. But
And just so you understand, they can't then take your resolution and go somewhere else.
Right.
Your resolution is only for Pensgrove. So it's not like you give them a resolution, we want to go to Barney's Point or this place or that place. No, it's only for this municipality.
Okay, are there any further questions? Okay,
motion to adopt.
thank you, Councilman Carter. May I have a second? Councilwoman Worley, thank you. Okay, did you get the original motion to?
Well, Councilman Carter and then Clerk Casey seconded to have the discussion.
Thank you so much. Okay, roll call vote, please. Madam Clerk.
Councilman Carter,
Yes.
Council President Martin,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mincy,
Yes.
Councilman Rambo,
Yes,
Councilwoman Scarpese,
Yes.
Councilwoman Worley. Yes. All of our motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. Okay. Next item on the agenda, item for consideration and discussion. So this portion of the meeting, we're not voting on anything, we're just discussing. And then those items will appear on the next meeting agenda. So the first item, item A, properties for Habitat for Humanity. I can start off the discussion, right? Okay, so I'm very pleased with the work that Habitat has done. They have built 18 properties, correct? In Pensgrove. So what they've done is we've given them or donated lots to them. They clear them out, they build homes, they put homeowners in there. So they've added 18 new homeowners to the tax roll. So I love the relationship that we've had with the borough. This was established before I even took office. I'd like to continue that relationship, and that's how I feel about those properties for Habitat for Humanity. Does anyone else like the same thing?
I wanted to know, if that's 444 Park Avenue, right?
Yeah, I just saw that was crossed off on the new map, so that made me.
It's crossed off the auction.
Is that the only property?
For right now, I mean, I know you have a lot on your plates, and or did you want me to speak briefly or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, right. Thank you. Hi, I'm Sue Ann Lighty. I'm the Executive Director for Salem County Habitat for Humanity. And we are celebrating 40 years of building homes in Salem County. Salem City and Pensgrove have primarily been where we built. And for a little bit of time, we had kind of broken away from that relationship. We were building in little other pockets. And honestly, since we started this project on Iona Avenue and Park, which was why I was really anxious to get the other property, you can see a tremendous difference in the neighborhood, not just with the homes we've built, but with what homeowners have done to clear behind. It looks beautiful on Iona. Used to be a lot of trash there. And it does cost about $20,000 to clear. I can attest to that. And There's also homeowners that have taken advantage of the USDA program, which is 62 and older, and the neighbor on the corner of Mitchell and Iona got a new roof through that program, and I helped them, get the paperwork to the USDA, and it just helps uplift the neighborhood. So I just want to continue that. I don't want to be greedy, but as this process moves along, we want to continue. We have the ability to build 5 homes a year, if we could. But I just wanted to thank you for considering that.
I do have a question. So I did, the grant that you're talking about for seniors, I shared it with a couple of seniors, and some of them don't really have anyone to help them through the process. So what could we do to kind of guide them through that process?
I have a volunteer who just loves senior citizens, and she comes in once a week. She'll meet with them. So all they have to do is reach out to me. I'll set up an appointment. She'll run and get the paperwork for them. She'll come scan it. She'll, because some of them aren't mobile either.
Yes.
And we also do ramps in this community, and that has helped a lot of people. In fact, it's a good blessing, to be able to do that. Unfortunately, when they do pass away, we get the ramp back and it goes out again. We have 29 ramps in service right now in Salem County, and that's another thing that we've done to give back, because the community is very good to us too.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Ms. Lady, could you talk to us about how Mr. Miller would write up the contract, and how basically we just sign off on it?
In the past, the borough held the property into the summer. I'm not sure.
I didn't
why.
like that idea.
Yeah, and us either, because we're putting a lot of money onto a lot we don't own. So, we take responsibility for the lot, which means cleaning it, mowing it, making sure that we don't stuff on it. And, that's our responsibility after it's transferred.
Specifically, I wanted to ask you that Mr. Miller would actually draw up the deeds, and
No expense to the
basically there's
borough.
no expense to the borough.
Correct.
And
Right.
I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm ready to vote on this today and just take it off our plate.
Yeah, and it'll be nice. It'll be adorable, and I think it'll really, kind of button up that neighborhood.
It's a big improvement over there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you.
Did anyone else have any comments or anything?
Thank you, that's what thank you.
I would just like to say, I got a roof put on through Habitat, wasn't the 62 and over, because I could have waited for that one. And I'm sure you remember a few years ago, the state was holding up the money or something, and they had people coming in town, and they needed some work to do. So I heard about it through the grapevine. I just had to pay for my materials and did my roof all the way down to the studs. Ain't gonna tell you how much it cost me, but trust me, it saved me a whole lot of money.
Yep, and it was engineering students from
Yes.
Colorado, and
Yes.
It was women engineers, and it was.
But all I paid for was material, and the prices that I got, geez, it was, I know one price was $10,000 more than what I paid. So that was very much appreciated.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving to.
Is there any reason that we're holding this up to the next meeting? I mean, we can do a resolution on the fly, can't we?
Can do a walk-on resolution if you like. Just propose the resolution, propose to bring on a resolution. Oh, I'm sorry. The question was asked whether or not you could do a resolution, and you can't do a walk-on resolution. There's nothing that prohibits that. So if there's a resolution that someone wants to make, that there be a what we call a walk-on resolution to agree to transfer properties to Habitat for Humanity, that person would make the resolution to have one walked on. There would be a second and a vote as to whether or not it would be walked on. Then we would do the actual resolution and you would vote on that. So if there's a resolution for a walk-on or
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
And then
So this is roll call for walking this matter on, put it on the agenda.
Councilman Carter,
Yes.
Council President Morton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mincy.
Yes.
Councilman Rambo,
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpese,
Yes.
Councilwoman Worley.
Yes.
All affirm, motion passed.
Now you'll need a resolution for the property transfer. So as I understand it, the resolution would be a resolution to transfer a specific property known as 444 Park Avenue in the Borough of Pennsgrove to Habitat for Humanity for development. And we can say the terms of that transfer to be discussed by council. Or to be, to be discussed and agreed upon by respective council. That would be the motion.
I'll make a motion to transfer 444 Park Avenue to Habitat for Humanity. The terms, conditions to be agreed upon by Mr. Worrell and Mr. Tarver, and transfer the property as of that date. Don't hold the property until the construction is done.
Now second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Worthy. Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilman Carter,
Yes.
Council President Morton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mincy,
Yes.
Councilman Rambo,
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpese,
Yes.
Councilwoman Worley.
Yes.
All affirm, motion passes.
And I will draft a resolution that reflects that language.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So along with that being passed that way, will that need to be passed for every property that Habitat will receive from Pennsgrove? Or do we change it so they don't have to go through that anymore?
This is a single property resolution, so it only applies just to this county.
So your question was, is this the way that we're gonna do it going forward for each property? Is that your
Right,
question?
or are they exempt from that? Being their track record, their years of doing business with Pennsgrove and the good that they have done, can we get, like, will every transaction go to where we don't hold deeds until the end? Or,
You can make a decision each time.
okay.
Okay, thank you, everyone. All right, next item, hiring discussion. We'll be discussing senior police clerk, the need for that, the need for an office clerk, the need for a housing inspector, and the need for a zoning official. Mr. Brown? We're ready for discussion.
Yes, I'll try to keep it brief, but this is an important update for the council members on these positions. So the first for police clerk, as you recall, we looked at the way, this administration is updating and upgrading what's going on in the municipality. And if I can quote my grandma, we're doing so without throwing out the baby with the bathwater. So that means we want to keep and enhance what's good and then update systems as need be. And that's what's in common with all these positions, as you'll hear. So for the police clerk position, we decided to merge what when the budget and it's previously been known as the booking clerk and the Rich, I'm forgetting the name of the other one. But these are all part-time. These are all part-time positions in the budget, and we've had one person doing a job of 3 people. So we reviewed it, and council's already approved the job description. The job is posted, and interviews have started, and we're likely to have a recommendation for this position at the March 1st meeting, as well as the other positions as well. The second one is office clerk. And I wanted to just clarify something as we discussed the last.
Can I just interrupt? I believe that's supposed to be administrative clerk. It says office clerk, but I think I think when I drafted that, it was supposed to be administrative clerk.
I have an inkling that the title of the job might not look the exact same on every document. Yeah, administrative clerk. But nonetheless, as you guys know, we have one of the most time-consuming things that happens in this administration is processing invoices and purchasing and dealing with contractors in general. This is something that I need help with as an administrator, as well as the CFO's office, Mr. Lab and Ms. Walker. So this is a position that will address those things. As discussed in the last governance committee meeting, sorry to step on your toes, Ms. Martin. It was suggested that by the committee that this person be bilingual because we have such a high need of a Spanish speaker in the office. So the word has been put out for bilingual candidates to apply. And again, I hope to have a recommendation to council to the mayor council by March 1st. The housing inspector is the one that's the most challenging in a few ways. And I want to take a minute just to explain why and address a few things, just to clarify based off of a few questions I've been asked. So first, our last housing inspector resigned at the end of December and moved away. In that it left a vacancy not only in Penn Grove, but in 4 municipalities in total. As I've told council before, but bears repeating, I reached out to every municipality I could in Salem County and a few in Gloucester County and Cumberland County as well, to ask for a shared service or if there's anyone that we could work with, even if it was temporary. And in that there are 4 vacancies in this region, there were no candidates that presented themselves. We also advertised the position on Indeed and Facebook, and we did have several people apply of various levels of experience, as Mr. Rambo discussed at the last council meeting. With all that said, we do have a candidate that interviewed and is also willing to accept the hourly wage that council asked me to start with. And we should have that recommendation on March 1st. Mr. Rambo and I discussed it, and the candidate and the committee will just meet beforehand, and that recommendation will move forward.
Say that again.
I said the candidate will be introduced to the committee before the March 1st meeting. The last one is zoning, and I want to be clear on a few things. First, when the housing inspector, let me also say on behalf of the borough, I apologize to any landlord, realtor, tenant that had issues in getting into Mandy and Sharon because they had to deal with this in their office. Anyone that was inconvenienced by this on behalf of the borough, I apologize. But as you heard, we had a staffing emergency that was really out of our hands, and we aggressively did all we could to get them done and find qualified people. We are catching up with those certificates of occupancy we did last week, and we're going to continue to catch up this week. I want to thank the team, you know who you are, for helping out as we do that. But that's why but we also want to make sure that, because we know that this work is tough. I went out on a few inspections myself, and look, I'm going to be very honest here and say some of these landlords are intimidating. They try to bribe you. They try to talk over you, try to tell you that a problem you see isn't really a problem. And you need a certain person there with a certain type of personality and skills that can deal with that, because it's a borderline confrontational job inherently what it is. And you have to have the skills of all the parts that come along with that checklist of what has to be done. The mayor has really stressed at the importance of making sure that tenants are moving into places that are really ready for them to move on, and that decent landlords be able to have an easy process that comes from us as a government. So those are all things that we're working on. I think that was an important issue, so I just wanted to note it. For the zoning official, it's challenging to find a good housing person. It's even more challenging to find a good zoning person because it's a very unique skill set. We don't get nearly as many zoning applications as housing applications. So there are 2 directions that you can go with. There are a few recommendations for zoning officer. I just got one from Mr. Rambo. There are people that just do this in other places that we can recommend. And that person will likely just work once a week and just breeze through all the applications on that one day. The other way to do it is to, the other way to do it is to contract with a person that does this remotely. And we have that as an option as well. We do have some people that have spoken interest, but they vary in the right format of how they want to participate with the borough. So this is something that we I will update the Housing and Zoning Committee, which is chaired by Mr. Rambo, and we should have a recommendation for a person based off of the right style and fit, again, by the March 1st meeting. In the meantime, I want to have I have a person that can do this on a contract level and get basically paid per application or per hour for doing the few and knock them out so that we can, so people can have their applications reviewed.
Thank you. Any questions?
I noticed we don't have a, we solved the problem with cleaning. Cleaning person.
Sean, the janitor?
Yes, so that too, we have a I had to get the last quotes changed, but I did have a recommendation. I think, Ms. Worley, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I sent you the last quote, which is probably a few weeks ago, with the recommended company, and to all the council, but to Ms. Worley specifically as chair of the Buildings and Grounds Committee, and Ms. Carpesi, since you asked the question. I could just walk you guys through the rationale for hiring a company as opposed to having a part-time person do it. We do have a person doing it temporarily right now, but that's very, very temporary, and we need to get somebody, get someone there. So this, because of the amount, this contract doesn't need council approval, but I'll definitely update everybody before the first day of cleaning on what's going on and get the appropriate check-in.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any further questions before we move on to the next item? Okay, next item, software for municipal management and contract approval. Mr. Brown.
I'm asking that's not ready to discuss, and that's going to be no action. There is a hiccup that I need to deal with hardware first before that. So my apologies, but I want that taken off the agenda, if that's okay.
Are you going to send us a cost estimate on this?
I'm sorry, you said again, send you a what?
Cost estimate on this program?
Oh, well, I did. It's about $20,000 for the first year.
Initially, and then always.
Yes, so it's initially $20,000. That includes the training, and then after that, it's just paying for the annual subscription.
Do you have that amount?
I do. It's about $1,500 per person, and it's buy 4 get 5 free. I mean, get the fifth. Excuse me, get the 5th free. So we get 5 licenses in total, $1,500 each per year.
So this is specifically for code enforcement.
1,500 times.
This is for code enforcement, housing. It covers several aspects of our municipal government.
Any further questions, Councilwoman Scarpese? No. Anyone else?
But let me also say that we have to get hardware first. The police department needs 5 desktop computers, and then the administration outside the police department, we need 3 more, plus the amount of laptops. What's been slow here is getting the quotes from these companies, because between supply chain issues and the fact that we're government and we don't use we don't necessarily use on-the-shelf hardware and laptops, and there's special software that gets installed. Tracy Thompson, our police clerk, and I have been working on getting these quotes, and there's a lot of back and forth that's happened with us and some of the vendors. But we're almost, and the other thing is we may need a budget transfer, which is it's really pro forma, but we may need a budget transfer at the next council meeting in order to put the money in the budget, because a lot of this is being paid for from the American Recovery Fund, but the rest of it is being paid for from the operating budget.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Next item on the agenda is the mission statement of the Borough of Penns Grove.
Sure, I can handle this.
Thank you.
With regard to the mission statement. One of the things that was required by your transition recovery plan was the drafting of a mission statement for the Borough of Penns Grove. Early on, I met with the business administrator and we came up with a draft of a mission statement, and it appears on your agenda here. Virtually every municipality has a mission statement, and basically that mission statement is supposed to encapsulate in a paragraph or two what that borough or municipality is all about. And what you see reflected on your agenda is the statement that is projected for Penns Grove, for the council, for your consideration. And if you'd like, I probably should read it because I don't know that everyone has that. If I may, sorry. Mission statement of the Borough of Penns Grove. The mission of the municipal government of the Borough of Penns Grove is to maintain the borough as a safe, clean, and healthy environment for residents, the business community, their guests, employees, and customers. We will accomplish our mission by providing cost-effective municipal programs that will promote, enhance, and protect the quality of life in the Borough of Penns Grove, and deliver municipal services in an efficient, responsive, courteous, and professional manner. We are a community that appreciates our differences and recognizes that unique skills, knowledge, and backgrounds bring strength to our community. Municipal government will be open, receptive, and willing to embrace innovative strategies for municipal progress. Our government is a partnership, and we will continue to seek creative ways to encourage communication among residents, elected and appointed officials, and staff.
Thank you. Any questions or comments regarding our mission statement? Okay. All right. That's what happens when you can hear, right? Okay, moving to item E, discussion of illegal dumping strategy and budget. A huge problem here in Penns Grove. Mr. Brown, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. And if I didn't mention this, I'm sick. I don't know if you can tell, but I don't feel great right now. But I'm getting through it. So hopefully everybody can hear me okay. So as I've said before, we've identified at least 8 locations in Penns Grove where there is illegal dumping. And we've also gotten some cost estimates. Because of the price of the dump fees and labor, it could cost up to $25,000 to clean that up, if not more. That would be a one-time fee, but dump sites usually attract the same folks that come time after time and then do it again. So we're looking for, we need some strategies. We had a chance to meet the Department of Environmental Protection in November and in Atlantic City and talk about this. And since then we've been in talks. And what we discovered is that the DEP actually doesn't have a lot of resources for municipalities for illegal dumping, with the exception of a program that they had for 10 to donate cameras that capture video of people illegally dumping to help an investigation to occur. Ms. Scarpese, Ms. Mincy, and Council President Martin and I were on a call with the DEP a few days ago. And on that call, they committed to being a partner with Cameras for Penns Grove. Now, the cameras are one thing, but we still have the issue of this stuff has to get cleaned up. Between the Salem County Improvement Authority, Carneys Point Public Works Department, these are not places that we can look to help get this stuff up. But as we literally clean this town up, we do need resources. So my recommendation is that we possibly, one is to possibly look into just making this one big contract and putting it out to bid and see if we can get a company that can come in a couple of days and just get everything up. And another is to see if we can, we're in the process of looking into a capital budget. We met with our bond attorney last week and shared the capital budget that has been worked on in committees throughout last year. If we're able to take some of the money from the current operating budget that's for buildings, grounds, and other things, if we get that capital money, we can then transfer that money to dumping and then specifically use it for that. So there are a few ways that we can keep quoting my grandma tonight, but we can rob Peter to pay Paul, but in a completely legal and ethical way. That we can just transfer money, identify money from other sources, and then that would give us more money. Nonetheless, we are aware of the dumping issue. I'm aware of the impact that cleanup could have on the budget. There are a few different strategies that we can have. This can be discussed in Buildings Grounds Committee if that's the best place, and we can talk through it. But this is a problem that has a few solutions and a heavy price tag as well.
I believe that Mr. Sestelli said that we could use some of that demolition money at one of the meetings that we had last year.
Definitely reach back out to him to find out. I
What's
would
that?
definitely call him to find out.
Yeah, last year, I think he mentioned that in one of the meetings that we had.
It's a good idea.
Yes, Mr. Rivera.
Madam Mayor, about 2 weeks ago, we also were in discussions with Salem Coalition for Safe Communities. Want me to touch upon that, Mr. Brown, or do you?
You know what? Yes, but before the part I forgot to mention is that we're also going to look at how we can use the Clean Communities money, because we have Clean Communities money and we can pay people to help clean things up. So I just wanted to mention that. And my adrenaline is about to pump down, so I think I'm going to dispute myself for the rest of the thing. That's okay.
You got brief.
Everything was ran off the ground.
So it just sounded like you just said one big sentence. And it was Charlie Brown.
So finish my point.
Go ahead.
So they had a very successful program and partnering with Salem City, and now they want to come to Pennsboro, which is pretty much like dumpster for a day, bring out people from the community to participate as well and clean lots. They'll pay for the dumpster, they'll pay for the haul, they'll pay for the dumping, and kind of pizza and soda thing where the community is engaged, and we'll get their participation as well. That's not going to cost us anything.
What was that again, Salem?
Safe communities.
Safe community, sorry.
Often does that happen?
But it's a full moon tonight, Mr. Rambo, so.
It's actually tomorrow night,
But
16.
and we're almost there. So they're good. This is a one-time thing in terms of this program, but we're working on other programs with them as well.
So do we have a date for that?
You will definitely be notified because I'll come and drag you out and you will help out. So don't even worry about that. I got you. I got you.
All right. Any further questions before we move on? Okay, last item on the agenda. Our long-awaited newsletter. Mr. Brown.
So what I said earlier was I don't have much more strength to talk. Miss Martin, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I know we talked about that in committee. So do you mind having this conversation?
I don't mind. So the newsletter would be a letter that goes out to all the community members so that they're aware of what's going on. Everyone's not on social media, so they don't really know. The newsletter would be comprised of, I don't know, maybe a message from the mayor. I know we talked about something about the recycling, because now people are saying that they don't know what's what or whatever. that can go in there. Recreation, what's going on, the calendar for events that are going on would be some of the things that are in there as well. So it's really just to communicate, because I'm telling you, a lot of people don't know what's going on.
Right.
You know, and they're not doing, you know, because I've been there, so, you know, you're talking like, oh, I didn't even know that. So, that would be fine. Mr. Brown, you mentioned the company that we would, I know you're trying not to talk, but you could just.
Yes, it's Hometown Press, and it's the same company that does Carney's Point. And one of the things that we like about them is that they're close, so they have the relationships with the companies that will pay for ads in the booklet, so there's little or no cost to the borough.
I think also we talked about the community would know who's in charge of what department. That way it'd be much easier for them to, you know, to reach out to that particular person who's in charge. I think that's gonna be a part of it as well, correct?
And our trash schedule.
And our trash schedule.
Did you address that?
Just with regard to the trash schedule, I've been discussing that matter with Carney's Point. It's my understanding and belief that we're going to be able to restore and get back to the position we were. I'm sorry. It's my understanding we're going to be able to restore, get back to the position that we were in before, which is having Carney's Point maintain the communication for the trash schedule and the recycling schedule as they did before. For whatever reason that stopped, we've had our discussions, we expect that to resume.
And the fees or all that.
All of that should be part of what the informational flyer that goes out, because that's what they were doing before, that's what they were contracted to do, and that's part of the same service.
And if I may add to that, I don't think that's just Penn's group that hadn't received that notification. I think Carney's Point as well had not been receiving that. So I think that's something, you know, I just don't think it's just us.
Yeah, understood. But you know, our position is that, you know, we are under contract, and that's a service that's been provided in the past, and that's a service that needs to continue. I feel like I'm back in Quantico.
Sounds good.
Is that the Stell Pentown Press? Ms. Stell is the owner?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Can I just make a comment to the calendar for now? It's the same, it runs the same, you still have your old calendar hanging up there, it's the same thing. It's the same thing, look on your calendar, and because I had started writing it on another calendar, then I looked at it, it runs the same as it did last year. So if you have the old calendar, it's the same thing.
And also,
That should help some.
you can also go to the Carney's Point street department, and you can get a calendar from them as well.
Thank you. Any more comments regarding our long-awaited newsletter? Okay. All right, the moment we've all been waiting for. Before we go into public session. Y'all laughing. We didn't talk about these properties. 449 Park Avenue. Nat, you can't give it to Habitat.
444.
444. 444? Is it 444? Yeah, not 444.
444.
All right. I thought they said 449.
That's the right one.
No, I went out to check because I kept saying that address sounds familiar. Okay.
It's your house.
So 449 is my aunt's property.
Oh, 449 is that your property? Yeah, that's why I wasn't talking about it. It's at 44. I ain't working at 449. All right. All right, public comment. If anyone would like to speak, you come up to the microphone, state your name and address.
Good afternoon, good evening, however, Anthony Scott, 70 Railroad Avenue. I have a question. What would I have to do as the business owner to have a sign up there for parking for 15-minute parking, during store hours. I've been a long resident here, and Miss Connie used to be my hairdresser up there, and that used to be Broad Street Cleaners, record shop, all that used to be up there. The Pix Laundromat, everything was over there. And when the stores were open, the street parking, people would park on the street. But the tenants upstairs, one tenant got like 4 cars that sits out there all day. Another tenant got 2, and the rest of them don't have no cars. But they're sitting out there, and then y'all are complaining secretly or however to whoever in reference to about businesses up there, which is when y'all say Broad Street business, y'all ain't talking about nobody but me and Shar, because we don't live down there in the street, about us not having parking down there. When that place was there was never a parking lot there. There was never a parking lot. Italian Kitchen never had a parking lot till they bought this property behind them, and now they have parking. Mr. Fedecchio owned the property across the street from him, and over there, he didn't have parking until he bought an extra area for parking lot. So what I'm just asking is what is the proper way? What do I need to do to put that in motion to ask for, at least during business hours, that no one parks there? It's no different than any other city. I have communicated with Wilmington, I've communicated with Camden, I've communicated with different ones, and they shared with me. So I'm coming to the council to ask, what is the proper way that the borough, what is it I need to go and handle my steps in the proper way to get that done?
What you would need to do is you need to make inquiry with the clerk as to the exact location of the property that you're seeking some form of parking for. You have to determine whether or not it's something that we can even do, whether it's local road, county road, state road, or anything else like that. Just finish the process. And once you determine that, once that's determined, you would then, the business administrator would likely forward it to me for some sort of legal review to determine whether or not it's proper and within our authority to do. If that is proper within our authority to do, then it would be forwarded to the council for their council committee for their determination as to whether or not it's something that they want to move forward with as the council. And then ultimately should they determine that it should make its way to the council for an ultimate vote by way of ordinance. So that's the process you need to get to the business administrator, let him know.
Mayor, could I be recognized?
Sure.
You're on a county road.
I know, that's why I was asking, I'm coming, I'm only doing what I was instructed to do. They told me to come to the council meeting to see how they're doing it because of the simple fact of that.
Did the county tell you that?
No, I went to ask another municipality how they handle it.
So, just a minute, we don't have authority over county roads.
That's fine.
So, I'm gonna assume, Mr. Tarver, that you have to address the county question.
Okay.
And just to tell you, the county, their meetings are on Wednesdays, but you gotta find out which Wednesday, because they're not like us. If you go tomorrow, they're not gonna take it. So you gotta go 2 weeks ahead of time.
Okay. So being as though that this road is a county road, then I shouldn't have to hear no other fussing in reference to parking about my business because that street is not owned by the borough. Am I correct?
Don't know what you mean by fussing.
Complaints.
Please still have jurisdiction.
Complaints from certain ones and that's in these titles up here in reference to the parking. So I won't have to hear that anymore.
Well, the police don't have jurisdiction over the roads. If that's what you're asking, I'm not really sure.
No. You got me, Mr. You know what I'm talking about.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Anyone else from the public?
Yes. My name is Stefan Schwartz. I live at 17 Diver Avenue. This is addressed to Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, I talked to you, I think it was last Thursday, and the house was up for auction. You said you were going to take it off auction, make it short. Me and my buddy, we were talking to you, and you said that you would take it off the auction because of like the taxes or whatever, and that we were going to pay like you said it would be all right for us to pay like $1,200 a month to take care of that.
Well, let me just intercede here because if you're talking about an individual matter that you have with the borough that deals with some property, is that what you have?
It's all property, borough and property.
Okay, it's something that that's something that we can talk about offline. It's not proper for us to talk here.
Okay, because I have the deeds to the home.
Sure.
I didn't receive anything, notifications or anything.
Let's have that conversation after the meeting. I'd be happy to stick around and talk to you about it.
You can stick around?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else from the public? Questions or comments? Okay.
I have one, no one else. My first,
State your name and your address, please.
close the Worrell, $39 drive. My first issue I'm concerned with is that it's been almost 3 years and no roads have been upgraded. And money was set aside from Penn Street to upgrade, and it was never done. And money was set aside, extra money was set aside for Landing Avenue. No action was taken there too, and Landing Avenue was almost like a dirt road. I was concerned about that, and I'd like to see someone look into that to get this this moving, because beforehand we were completing about one road a year based on the grants we got from the DOT. And we were whittling some of the roads down in that group, the ones that were completely in disrepair. That was the first issue. The second issue is I've heard some ideas about having the Pennsgrove Sewer Authority take over the maintenance of our pumping stations and take it out of the hands of Carney's Point. And I think that would be an excellent idea, especially when you have the expertise in the sewer authority that handle pumps routinely. And besides the maintenance of the pumps, they would have to clean the grates. And that might take a little bit more manpower. I don't know if they have enough manpower there or if that is looked into by the sewer authority board. But I think that would be a great idea, especially how Strong's Lane was ran intermittently during the Halloween flood, and you know, the road, State Street was flooded, Broad Street was flooded, various houses were flooded along that low section of the town. And the other item was that at the Mill Street pumping station, there were a project coming down to repair the gate valve at Mill Street and possibly put a new pump at Delaware Avenue, but I haven't heard anything about that moving forward at all, and it's really been dragging out. We need to address these things before we have another event where more people get down. I talked to people that have 4 feet of water in their house on Delaware Avenue or down along Cove Road. So pretty devastating to have water flood your house and knock out your heater, especially in the cold weather. That was the only issue I have. Thank you.
Okay,
I can address
just to, where, yes, in terms of the streets and then the Mill Street. So we're working with Sean Smith right now, the engineer, to come up with a comprehensive plan to address that.
We're redoing the streets?
Yes, yes. And so we're working on that plan now. I could actually have Mr. Smith give you an update if you like.
A what?
An update. Would you want an update? Okay.
I tried to get an update for the pumping stations 3 or 4 times.
I'll make sure you get it.
And nothing has ever happened.
I'll make sure you get it.
I
Okay.
even put in an upper request, and I was denied.
I can address some of
Go ahead.
those issues because I can't address the streets because I don't have any information on that.
Right, I know they're two separate issues.
But I can address the, what's happened with the pumps. We had a meeting with Triad, which is our grant coordinator, and with Mr. Smith, who was our engineer. The two of them have set up a meeting to go over what our priorities are and what grants could be available. You know, that it's
Right.
not a short process. Yeah, I mean, you know that. You've been up
Yeah,
there.
$1 million each.
The other thing that has been done, well, there's a lot of money out there because, you know, the federal government passed
Right.
$1.7 trillion.
Infrastructure, right.
So we have high hopes, and according to Triad, that we'll be qualified for the highest amount because of our demographics. So that is a longer term project. The short term project that I've initiated is I've been in touch with the county. And they have agreed that our ditches are going to be their responsibility to clean, and to deepen them and to clear out the silt and the vegetation. They are doing that. They are going to do it.
Really?
There's two ways that it can be done. They already have a DEP permit to do certain things. By the end of the month, they're going to let me know if we qualify under that permit. If we don't qualify under that permit, they're going to apply for a permit, which will probably take to the end of the year. If we qualify under the permit that they have now, we'll be able to do that this spring. So by probably the next meeting, I should have a report from, it used to be called the Mosquito Commission, but
Right.
it's a different name now. But I have a contact in there and they're coming out to actually look at the ditches and see which route we have to take. But they have taken responsibility for it, which was, I was so happy with that. But so it's not gonna come out of our budget, it's a county budget. The other thing with the sewage department, I'm gonna say that that is probably not a project that they're gonna take on. They've lost a lot of expertise in that area. I have high hopes for that, but I can't see that happening.
I know, especially the Mill Street, ditch is almost done. And that's like-
They will take care of the Mill Street and the Strong's Lane. I'm not sure what happens out at Delaware Avenue. And I'm not sure that they know either, but I know that that pump is non-functioning at this point.
Right, still non-functioning.
And Mr. Smith and Carolyn Zampino from Triad are working on that. So hopefully by March, I'm gonna have an update on what is available to us.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public? Mr. Giordano.
Ron Giordano, 7 Sac Avenue. First thing I'd like to do is, I want to commend all of you on the auction. I know myself, we were hoping to get that done in October of last year, and for a reason that some of the council knows, it just didn't happen. And I'm glad to see finally we're going to get that accomplished. Mayor touched on it very lightly about what it's costing the town, and it's going to certainly help us a lot, and it certainly will help the town as far as, getting some of that money off the property. Now, having said that, I just want to move forward and bring something else up to you, which is when we talked about the hiring, and you talked about the housing inspector and a zoning inspector or zoning officer. Zoning officer is very important, as you well know, because the zoning officer, when he's on duty and doing things, he is very much a part of the planning board. He brings them before the planning board whenever there's a site plan that needs to be done or some type of a change in the zone, okay? So that's very important. The housing officer is very important because that's where your COs come from. But you don't need one of each. And the reason I say that is because the housing officer really brings in the money. The COs, County Point charges $125 each. That's pretty good for their fees. Zoning, for when someone comes in and needs a zoning zone, it's $25. So for that zoning person to make his wages, it's going to be pretty tough. But if you combine them and make them one, it'll be a lot better for you. It'll be a lot more efficient. And just based on your mission statement, which is what you're trying to do, this will be a good help for you. I also want to address the software. And I want to address that to you, Mr. Rambo. How many programs did you actually see or did Mr. Brown bring before you as far as the software programs? Now, this is a program naturally for your zoning, your code enforcement, your housing, and your zoning, which is very, very important. Did you bring any before you?
I haven't had a chance to review anything.
Okay. He did mention $20,000. I just all of you to just take careful note that I work over right now in County Point in the construction office. I'm very familiar with these software programs. I brought before them, not before the board, but to some of the council people at my last meeting last year, I negotiated a contract with the Mitchell Humphrey software. They do about 75% of the state. I made a contract with them or an agreement with them, $750 to be the training fees, not per person, flat $750. $950 for the software program. And as I said, 75% of the state uses their program for property code enforcement zoning. So I caution you to look into that before you jump on this $20,000.
I'm sorry, Mr. Giordano.
I know that's all the time I have. Thank you.
But I would like to say that feel free to send, forward your questions and all that. You can do that.
Okay.
Can you send that program to us or the information on that program?
I can try to get it again for you. I don't know if that's still going to be honored because that was last year. And they were giving us like about a 40% discount.
Sounds good.
Anyone else from the public?
Greg Martin, 46 Spruce Street. Before I get started, Scott, my first question is, what is the relationship between council and the sewage authority? I see tonight that we had Mr. Worrell got appointed, but I want to know what role does the council, I sit on the sewage authority for anybody that don't know. I want to know what role does the council play with the sewage authority?
Just to kind of make it like a quick answer, because I know that we have a new procedure where we're either doing questions or statements, but just with regard to that, the sewerage authority is an authority creation of the municipal council. In other words, it was created for a specific purpose under a statute which allows for municipalities to create specific utility and other authorities, parking authorities, sewerage authorities, and other authorities to be able to handle specific areas and tasks of business. The council is created by.
Okay, so I sit on the sewage authority. I don't take anything that I sit on very lightly. And my stomach is turning tonight. I'm normally easy to talk, but I haven't really felt good since yesterday. And I think council should know when something goes on at the sewage authority because it goes hand in hand. I'm a part of the sewage authority. I sat at a meeting last night for a couple minutes because I left. Our meeting was scheduled for Thursday, this coming Thursday. Our meeting last week, we were contacted by email that our meeting was moved up. me, actually, another solicitor member is here, Mr. Washington was there. That 3 members, Ms. James, Mr. Scarpese, and Mr. Abner, Woyenda, you only need 3 people to say the meeting is moved up. Well, in short, the meeting was a lame duck meeting. What do I mean by that? I mean that the agenda and the table was already set to name Mr. Scarpese the chairperson, knowing that someone was going to get appointed tonight by you all. That was on the agenda, could have been Ms. James. I had planned to come here to speak on behalf of Ms. James until last night. Because to me, that's inappropriate. We had a lawyer there that was appointed last year that didn't even know that he was getting replaced, so he came and looked stupid and left. Because they had another lawyer that wasn't even approved yet, that was there taking notes. Anyway, it's just ignorant. If we plan to move this town forward, and to tell you the truth, I'm normally easy, what's name, but it doesn't sit right. It doesn't sit right when you serve and you're asking the community to sit on things. And I heard Mary Kay's resume. She brought the resume, sent it by him to my house for my wife because I seen it on the table, trying to do dealings. I came to speak on behalf of Mary Kay. I know her and her husband for years. I thought she was doing a great job. But when you do things that's not morally, then I to tell you the truth, I don't have tolerance for that. I don't have tolerance if you're not going to be upstanding, moral, and do the right things. And what I mean by do the right things, you don't put a chairperson in of anything until you find out who's going to be on there for the year. So now we approve the lawyer, we approve some other things. I didn't approve it because I voted no to everything, right? So now we got me and this gentleman who didn't agree with it as well. Now what we got to do is recall everything, because that's what I plan to do if I got to seek legal advice. Because you don't do things like that when you know that your term was up the 31st. Thank you for your time. I'm not going to go over, but I believe all you should know, since you spoke very highly of Mary Kay, you should know that Mary Kay, I came to speak on behalf of Mary Kay tonight. I can't in good faith and good conscience speak on her behalf because of that. You don't put him as chairman knowing who's going to be on the thing. Now there was Michael Worrell, so you don't get a chance to pick who's going to be the attorney for the sewage authority. I never seen such discord in all my life, and we ain't gonna move this town forward so people learn to work together.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Is there anyone else from the public?
Thanks for the info.
Oh, yeah, that meeting was something else. I was on there.
All right.
Mayor, before we close, can I make this comment? Anyway, Mr. Giordano was talking about the fees. I looked on the website. This is for the solicitor. Well, the mayor too. I thought we put in fees for housing inspector at $100. On the website, it still says 50. I thought we put a resolution in to change that.
I'll check, and if we did, in fact, pass that, then I'll make sure, I'll send it to Tracy to make sure that that's updated on the website.
Yeah, and also, Mr. Solicitor, we got to work on our fees because our zoning permits is $10. So a lot of our things is down real low. So you can't even get a sub compact for $10. So we need to change that at least 25. Okay. So we'll work on reading some of our things, but I did look on the website, it said $50. I'm like, you know.
Yeah, that just needs to be updated.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. You already spoke.
I can't speak a second time.
But if you have any questions, you can forward these to me or forward them to Mr. Brown. And I'll do that to you.
Something that wouldn't help the demolition.
Yeah, we already passed. Okay, everyone, our next meeting will be held March 1st at 6:30 p.m. We have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank
Third,
you.
fourth, fifth.
All in favor? Thank you, everyone.